The Batmania of 1989 was, frankly, insane. It's one of those things you truly had to live through to understand the scope and impact 1989's Batman had on popular culture and the trajectory of cinema that is still with us to this day. While there have been some box office winners in the Batman franchise in the decades since the films made by Tim Burton and starring Michael Keaton, not a one of them can match the jaw-dropping merchandising impact generated by those first two Batman films. However, as much of a runaway hit as the original film turned out to be, the film's path to successful action figures wasn't as turnkey as you might think, and the product that took the most chaotic journey was the Batcave itself.
You're not exactly normal, are you?
It's not exactly a normal world, is it?
Even though Kenner held the license for Batman in the 1980s via the now legendary Superpowers figure line, by 1989 they'd allowed that option to go to a new company called Toy Biz, that simultaneously had the license for Marvel superheroes as well, a feat that hadn't been achieved since the Mego days. Toy Biz must have been working as a sub-licensee of Kenner, because while their dedicated 1989 Batman line was newly tooled, their supplemental DC superheroes figure range was composed of cheap retoolings of Kenner's own Superpowers figures. But the Toy Biz power play of holding the rights to both DC and Marvel only lasted a year, and by 1990 Kenner had grabbed the rights back from Toy Biz, launching the Dark Knight collection, which funnily enough was also a cheap retooling of Kenner's own Superpowers line where Batman himself was concerned. However, the Dark Knight collection, also based on the 1989 film, is seen as mostly superior to the Toy Biz effort. Kenner would make sure to hold on to this license for the inevitable sequel, 1992's Batman Returns, and correct a glaring omission from the 1990 range. While the Toy Biz line only provided 3 action figures, it did not skimp on the world build, making the Batmobile, the Batwing, and the Batcave. By contrast, while Kenner prioritized a superior version of the Batmobile and the Batwing for 1990's Dark Knight collection, the Batcave would be conspicuously absent. Kenner would rectify this with the Batman Returns figure line in 1992, releasing the Batcave Command Center playset. But for some reason, which was immediately apparent, Kenner's whole philosophy with the Batman Returns line seems to have been, make sure these products can do everything. Kenner clearly didn't think it would be enough for the Batwing to be a flying vehicle. They insisted it had to have a ground roadster integrated into the fuselage. They took this line of thinking right over the cliff with the Batcave Command Center. Not content to focus on the Batcave itself, which is arguably the most engaging locale for a playset, as Mego and Toy Biz both understood, Kenner decided to cram anything and everything possible into this ill-conceived edifice. The result is an unsatisfying, indecisive product that, in trying to be everything, ends up succeeding at nothing. It all begins with the facade of Wayne Manor, markedly undersized with a pair of flimsy front doors, a comically small balcony on the second level, and a pair of breakaway skylights on the roof, which were obviously inspired by Batman breaking through the skylight of the art museum in the original film, because on the box it depicts Batman breaking through the ceiling of his own house, because that makes total sense. Upon opening the playset, you discover it's not a central hinge, but operates more like a privacy screen, with 3 sections connected by a pair of hinges. A zip line in the middle of Batman's living room lands you in the house itself. Although Kenner couldn't be bothered to make the upper half of the Manor wall look like the lower half. Instead, the lower half is a wood-paneled wall with a grandfather clock, and the upper span of the wall is a literal cave surface. This design corner was cut because upon going through the door, you're now in the Batcave itself, where Bruce Wayne's changing safe for his Batsuit and his computer station are located. However, the best bit of lunacy here is how the reverse side of the house wall with the clock is now magically the garage door for the Batmobile to exit the Batcave. To get out of the cave to fight crime, Batman floors his car through his own living room apparently, because that was totally a thing. However, that's not even the craziest design choice. In their all-in-one obsession for this product, they made the back of the playset the Penguin's hideout. Right on the other side of the wall from Batman working on his computer is the bad guy's lair. If there's any emergency, Batman would get to the bad guy's hideout faster by walking than taking his car.
Wah, 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 wah.
Ugh, not again. Shut up! You promised you'd be quiet during working hours, Cobblepot! In fact, the whole layout of the playset, its proportions, and entire design feel more like rotating sets for a Broadway stage musical than a credible location.
Why does Bruce dance to the Riddler's fiddles? What meaning lies beneath these riddles? Is it vanity or insanity that drives the Batman to enigma? She's getting closer. She wants to know me, but I cannot let her in. No, Vicky, you mustn't rip away my veil.
You're putting out signals, Batman, and so am I. Step into my boudoir, Batman. I'll watch you fly. Let's make this a chemical romance.
Overall, the Batcave Command Center is an underwhelming mess. But that wouldn't stop this thing being a fixture in all of our lives from 1992 to 2003. Kenner was so proud of this plastic punchline, they immediately re-released it in 1993, rebranded for Batman the Animated Series as the Batcave Command Center once again. Except now, instead of the Anston stonework look of the original playset, the psychos working at Kenner decided to hand the manor over to the same vandals that destroyed Michael Douglas's house in the game. It looks more like a place the Joker would live. And inside, the only changes were to the decals for the Batcave computer monitors and the description of the Penguin's hideout to simply Villain Hideout. Kenner would put this playset through the paint shop again in 1995, giving it its most extreme makeover for the release of Batman Forever. Here, even more than the previous version, it looks like it should be the Riddler's house with its green deco, and now it carries the dubious name of Wayne Manor Batcave Compound. Compound? Get the assault rifles, Alfred. Batman's moving to a bunker in Montana, apparently. The box makes it readily apparent Kenner did not care that the new design for the Batmobile would make it impossible to drive out of the garage door. They made no modifications to this playset for that reality. Kenner, we really don't care anymore. At least Alfred doesn't have to worry about getting turned into street pizza. The backside of the playset has now changed again to become the Riddler's hideout. Keep in mind, these are changes in name only. The design of the hideout is still the same Penguin's hideout from 1992 that, incidentally, never looked like Penguin's Place and suspiciously more like Axis Chemicals from the original 1989 film. And once again, the computer decals changed. 1995's Batman Forever was also the one time Kenner decided to try to get away from this playset, and they actually sold a second, larger Batcave playset right alongside the redecoed Batman Returns version. This Batcave playset was massive, but foolishly, Kenner went with the bridge to nowhere strategy, and as a result, this really lame Batcave playset was only offered one time and never again. Even when faced with much larger competition, that tired old Kenner Batman Returns Wayne Manor still beat all comers. Also, I hope you've noticed on these box images how they're just populated with multiple weird versions of Batman. As was Kenner's addiction in the 1990s, most of these Batman toy lines, with the slight exception of the animated series line, simply threw out a couple of villains and drowned toy aisles in a slew of Batman repaints. I guess Kenner watched Multiplicity way too many times. With 1997's Batman and Robin, the Batman movie franchise hit rock bottom, but the tired Kenner Batcave got a very slight reprieve. The exterior of the playset was taken back to something far more reasonable as a house, and the deco overall was an upgrade in taste from the 1995 version. Yes, the computer stickers changed again, the garage door remained the same, but it seemed Warner Brothers must have gotten notes from Kenner begging them to lower the rear wing on the Batmobile, because this one looks like it can get through that doorway. Someone also wisely had them drop the word compound from the name, now simply called Wayne Manor Batcave, and the rear of the playset was, as you can probably guess, now Mr. Freeze's hideout. After this, things get weird for a few years. With the animated series having ended in 1999 and the movie franchise public enemy number 1 with moviegoers, one would think that would be the end of the dubious Kenner Batcave. However, due to what I can only surmise was the success of the animated series syndicated run on Toonami on and off in the late 90s through 2003, Batman the Animated Series found a new audience, and I can only assume Hasbro, having owned Kenner since the mid-90s, saw the viability of new toys, which is admittedly tough to fathom since Cartoon Network ran the show at 2 a.m. on Sunday mornings. But it must have done something, because Batman figure multi-packs were released that finally offered us characters like Commissioner Gordon, Talia, the Ventriloquist, and Ra's al Ghul in his proper outfit, alongside a number of Kenner Animated Series vehicles getting redecoed as well. And right there alongside them in 2001 was that damn Batcave playset again, now called the Shadowcast Batcave. The playset got a makeover once again, now with its best exterior colors since the 1992 original, and new stickers for the computers. In a massive surprise, this version came with an animated series figure of Alfred, a beloved character who'd been totally shut out of all the previous Batman figure lines. The other major change to this version is the industrial complex at the back of the playset is no longer attributed to a bad guy. Now it's just a weird part of the Batcave, I guess. Hasbro would flip this playset around once more the next year in 2002, renaming it the Gotham City Darkstorm Batcave playset, still including Alfred, but now with a strange box art twist. I gotta ask, as bad an idea as it was tacking the bad guy's playset onto the good guy's headquarters, is anyone else wondering why Kenner thought Batman's villains would be laying siege to Bruce Wayne's house around the clock? Apparently, Kenner has no problem floating the concept that every criminal in Gotham knows Batman's secret identity. Can we blame Vicky Vale?
Who let Vicky Vale into the Batcave? I'm sitting there working and I turn around. There she is. Oh, hi, Vic. Come on in.
The Batcave story takes a final unexpected turn in 2003, when Mattel wrestled the rights to Batman and the rest of the DC Comics pantheon from Hasbro. In what we must suppose was Mattel needing time to ramp up their own Batman efforts, they must have struck some kind of deal with Hasbro to use their existing Batman toys for another go-around in 2003. The animated figures and vehicles were reissued under the simple marquee Batman, and given Mattel logos on the packaging. And yeah, I know I sound like a skipping record, but the Kenner Batcave was once again trotted out for another lap, this time with the simple name, Batcave. The deco was the same as the two previous versions. Mattel didn't change a thing except the box artwork. I won't deny the Kenner Batcave was a success. Clearly, they were able to move tens of thousands of these things over the 11 years the toy industry leaned on this rickety mess. But I won't back off of the fact this playset is really weird and makes far too many compromises as a product. That being said, this has to be one of the only action figure playsets of a major franchise to survive 11 years, 7 iterations, and carry the logos of 3 of the biggest toy companies in history on the box. Would I be surprised if we discovered there was an 8th release at some point? No, I would not. I am fully prepared at this point to wake up in the middle of the night to find yet another release of this thing watching me sleep. They say nothing good lasts and evil lives 100 years, so you can bet your bottom dollar what the character alignment of this junk pile would be in a Dungeons & Dragons session. I'm not kidding. I want this thing to die horribly, but it won't. We will be finding these things from now until the asteroid hits. There is no hope for the future after you've laid eyes on this level of chicanery. This thing is like a glitter bomb. You'll never see the end of it.